Okay, so you're probably asking, is the DJI RS4 really worth $600? Well, almost $600. All right, if you clicked on this video, you did it for a reason. And I'm here to tell you that your reason was wrong. Instead of getting a professional, high quality, someone that knows what they're talking about video, you clicked on me. And I'm here because I'm trying to get rich and famous so I can quit my day job, which probably won't ever happen. But anyways, while we're both here, we're here to discuss the new DJI RS4 gimbal. This is the non-pro version. Obviously, if you want a pro review, click a different video. So this video is going to be kind of going over, some of the basics, whether this is a good first purchase. For me, I'm a first time camera aficionado, or whatever that word actually means. So anyways, what that means in layman's terms is I'm kind of like you watching this. If this is your first video that you're watching, and I really do apologize for that because this probably isn't going to be that good. I bought this because I want to be like the pros and I don't want to spend a lot of money, but I did anyways because why not? So this gimbal is actually only $549 at the time of recording this, which is roughly like 30 days since its release. This gimbal actually came out in April. It's now May, so I've had a couple weeks to really figure it out, really get to use it. I filmed a few videos. Obviously, as you kind of saw in the beginning of this, it's smooth, like it's really smooth. I came from a DJI RS3 Mini, which is like yay big. They're not good. I don't know who said they were, and I don't know what the intended purpose of them is, but they kind of suck. I said what I said. If you don't like it, don't watch. With that in mind, I think that this is a great gimbal for first-time buyers. If you're upgrading from something, maybe reconsider those options. But there's so many improvements to this model specifically over the previous generations that make this well worth the buy. So I'm gonna do my best to sit here and not read things off a screen. I'm just gonna go through like the punch points, kind of like you would want if you were watching something for the first time. There's so many bugs. So instead of sitting here and reading through a list of things on my phone, even though it's sitting right here in front of me and I'm gonna pretend I'm not using it, I don't know how people do that. I don't know how people are just so candid and they're like, oh, I've memorized all this. I gotta use the phone, but So anyways, this gimbal features several big things. They are really big additions since the previous model. So like a few of the similarities, it still weighs roughly the same. It's about 3 ounces more. The payload is the exact same, 6.6 pounds. What that means in ounces or whatever the metric system is, I have no clue. But a lot of those things have remained the same. There would be a plane flying over right now. There would be. Some of the biggest improvements of this gimbal versus previous generation, and probably one of my favorites coming from the RS3 Mini to this, is the Teflon coated arms. So essentially what that means is these new arms have the ability to adjust so much easier. Like if you want to do fine tuning and you just want to move it just a little bit, it's flawless. It moves like butter. Previously, I don't know if it's on the RS3, but I know for a fact it's on the Mini. If you go to move something just the smallest like millimeter, it shifts like a whole inch. Maybe that's exaggerating, maybe it's not. That was my experience. I hated trying to readjust it. So like when you're swapping lenses or you're adding accessories, it's miserable trying to rebalance that gimbal. This one, on the contrary, 10 times easier. The arms, they almost move too much, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. Anyways, going hand in hand with that Teflon coating is obviously the knob for adjusting the tilt of the camera itself. It's a previous thing, it's from the RS3, they just brought it over, which was a genius idea on their part. I know that they could have cut cost and removed it, but they chose not to, which shows that they actually care about their customers for the most part. With that, you can fine tune things, really get it dialed in, but really, it helps, but it's kind of a one and done thing. The next big thing is the fact that there's second gen vertical shooting. So essentially what that means is now instead of bringing in the borders from either side, you can just rotate the camera, 90 degrees and it vertical shoots. So there's this new feature. It's almost like a quick connect base plate. And what it does is it just mounts on the bottom side of it. And now you can quickly shoot short form videos or just vertical format for some other generic reason. I don't know anyone that's filming vertical that's not filming it specifically for TikTok, Instagram, Reels, YouTube Shorts, kind of those things. But if you do film for vertical, go you. So kind of with that, you know, a lot of this requires balancing. In order to actually use the vertical mode, it does require a rebalance. So with that, they have upgraded the software a little bit. They say it's now the 4th generation balancing system. It's a lot of fancy terms from a company that just says big things to say, oh look, it's something new, which isn't bashing by any means. It's just, they don't really go into what that means. So unless you read through all of the specific mechanics of it, then really it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Straying away from stability, the next big thing is obviously the battery kind of carried over. You can really fit the same battery from the previous gen on this gen. They don't really advertise that, but I'm almost positive it fits. But the new improvement is the extended battery. The current battery lasts about 14 hours. It really depends on the style of shooting that you're doing and how much the gimbal is actually moving, how much it needs to stabilize the camera, how much the camera weighs. There's a lot of factors, but they advertise that it works up to 14 hours. Now, with the new extended battery, which I don't have yet because it's kind of on back order, they kind of dropped it at the same time and said, oh, it's gonna be this big thing. That can last up to 29.5 hours, which is absurd. Now, the cool thing is with this new high capacity battery, it allows you to plug things into the new RSA ports, which is a really fancy term for saying Ronin series accessories, which means that you can now have powered accessories on your gimbal without additional batteries, without having to plug things into an external V-mount or something like that. You can plug things directly in to the extended battery. So if you want to charge your camera, if you want to add, you know, a monitor mount or something, you can do so. Now, that is obviously going to deteriorate the battery life. It's not going to last the full 29.5 hours that DJI recommends, but it is going to get you something more than you previously had. Additionally, with this model, they have new 2nd gen axis locking. On previous models, sometimes if you shook the gimbal really hard, then it would just come loose. And no one really wants that because now you're sitting here going, well, my gimbal's not staying locked every time I go to put it in like standby mode, which isn't really user-friendly. So they did upgrade those. They're slightly better. They're miles better than the RS3 Mini. So if you are upgrading from a Mini to a full size, night and day difference. But from an RS3 to an RS4, it's minimal. It's not really worth the extra several $100s. And then really the last real noteworthy improvement is the screen locks. You know, instead of having to sit there and go back and actually, you know, lock it yourself every time you want to go and film something, it just has a timer now, so you can set it. I want to say it's like 15, 30, 60 seconds. And once you actually start using the gimbal and it's moving around, you haven't made any adjustments to the settings, it will just self-lock in whatever setting you are. So really that's a big feature. You know, I personally use that because I know a lot of the time that when I was filming or doing something, I would bump the screen and it's changing adjustments. Then you have to rebalance things and recalibrate. It's a nightmare. So it's not really the best improvement, but a necessary one because why wasn't it done before? So that brings me into what didn't change. So obviously, you know, payload hasn't changed. It really only weighs 3 ounces more. A few of the other things that really haven't changed are kind of necessities. So to read them off directly from DJI, the mounting plate still allows for the fine-tuned knobbing, which is what we talked about earlier. It still has the same button. So on the front, you have a button to record. You have a kind of custom button, and that will allow you to switch through your settings and your favorites super quick, which is great. On the left side of the gimbal, you have your zoom function, or you have a camera function. Then it allows you to adjust things like shutter speed, ISO, really you name it. If your camera is compatible with the gimbal, then you can adjust it. On the right side of the gimbal, you now have your push to follow, your different angles and gyroscopes of, you know, do you want it to stay on a horizontal axis? Do you want it to rotate with you? Or do you just want it to pan up and down? That all is kind of still stayed the same. Additionally, all the accessories from the RS3, RS2, SC, if they fit on all of those models, they fit on this model. None of that's changed. They didn't want to reinvent the wheel, which is great because now it means that you don't have to buy additional things. I think the biggest thing that they made sure was compatible with this new model, which is compatible with several of the other models, is the Raven Eye software, which essentially is a additional accessory that you can buy after the fact. It plugs directly into your camera and it works alongside your gimbal to track you. So if I were to sit here and move, instead of the camera being in a fixed stationary position, it would move with me. And so it's really great, you know, if you are a wedding, or if you're at an event where you're really wanting to focus on that one person or maybe 2 or 3 people, it will fixate on them and you don't have to do anything. You don't have to follow them because the gimbal does it for you.
I'm doing another LiDAR example because a lot of y'all been asking what happens if you get out in public or you get people involved. And I just want to show you that no matter what I do, this is gonna follow me and this LiDAR is gonna focus on me and be extremely accurate. What happens if you're right next to someone in the frame? Well, I'm gonna start walking and I wanna show you that the camera's focused on me and not Alex. Even if I turn my face, it's still locked in.
Additionally, with the Pros and with the RS4, they do have a new focus motor. It's an accessory that you can also buy after the fact. Essentially, in layman's terms, it turns your manual focus lenses into automatic lenses. You have auto-focusing capabilities out of a manual focus lens, which for a lot of people is worthwhile because I don't know about you, I really like my autofocus. However, I know there are people that love to shoot a manual, so for them, that accessory might be worth your while. Now, the reason you clicked on this video, obviously, is because you want to know, is this the right gimbal for you? Now, if you were to ask me, I personally think that this gimbal is a great bang for the buck. I think that if you buy this gimbal, you won't be upset. Now, is it truly worth $549, or as we said in the beginning of this video, nearly $600 after tax and everything else? Not really. You can go out on the market right now on websites like MBP, and you can actually pick up one for significantly cheaper. So as I pull out my phone here, I have 7 available on MBP's website, which I'll put up on the screen. They start from $399, which is essentially like new. They consider it a brand new quality. It may show, minor signs of wear and tear. But on the low end of the spectrum, you can pick up a like new one for as low as $354. Now, when you put that into perspective, say $350 for even numbers versus $550, that's $200 savings for a model that has a lot of improvements, but really doesn't if this is, just used for casual occasions. So really, all that to be said, I think if you're comparing apples to apples, the RS3 is probably a better buy, especially if you already have one. There's no reason to upgrade. There's no necessity. There are a few new features, but they're not worth $200 more. Now, if this is a first-time purchase, like many of us are, in my case, this really was a first-time purchase. I'm coming from a mini to a full-size gimbal. This is well worth the investment in my opinion. So I would highly, highly recommend this to anyone that is actually looking to go out and buy a brand new gimbal. I'm sure in the next, couple months, you'll be able to pick these up at a good price. Right now, they are fairly available. There are no back orders, at least at the time of filming and uploading this. But, I would say probably in the next 6 months as we get into the holiday season, you are going to start to see deals. There's going to be discounts from DJI or from Best Buy or from Newegg or even B&H. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope that you guys appreciated, getting to hear me talk and babble about all the stupid things that I think are important. So if you want to see more of this style of content, you kind of know what to do. Obviously, subscribe, like, drop a comment. What do you want to see? What do you want to see out of this gimbal, out of this camera? And we're going to do some more. So if you like what you saw, make sure to subscribe, ring the notification bell, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Thank you.